Hello, 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 beautiful unicorns. Yana Kasperczak coming to you live from Ontario, of Canada, as your certified professional performance and spiritual awakening core energy coach. It has been my soul's purpose to help women, to help you get your shit together so you can break free from that mental prison you find yourself in and build a business, life, and or a career that you are obsessed with. So today's topic that I wanted to talk about on the Get Your Shit Together Weekly Life Guidance with myself, Yana Kasperczak, I will talk about something that all of us moms deal with, and either we deal with it or we put on a really good show pretending that we're dealing with it. And that is talking about mom guilt. I want to help you to manage mom guilt while you are pursuing your personal, professional dreams. So, for obvious reasons, this guilt only starts and begins for us women when we become mothers, because it is not something we can experience prior to that. Our mothers did, and they tried to help us and educate us and tell us what maybe they feel guilty about, but we wouldn't understand it. We wouldn't even hear it because we must go through it. We must experience it ourselves and then understand what our mothers might have been expressing to us or saying to us, or trying to express it through their actions and behaviors that we might not have picked up on back then when we weren't mothers. So now that you're a mother, you might find yourself feeling guilty for many different reasons. And it's important to identify what is actually triggering your mom guilt as well. What are those messages that you are carrying that are making you feel guilty, which we'll talk about a little bit as well, before you can do something about it. Because if you don't have clarity, you don't even know where to start. Then you don't even know what the problem is, or what the message that you're carrying that is causing you to feel like there is a problem, there's that internal struggle. So clarity is going to be one of the first important steps that you need to take on and embrace without feeling guilty of doing that, so you can see and understand where you're at and what's going on. So this mom guilt, it can feel like it's an unwanted guest that shows up uninvited, whispers into your ear, and worst of all, it refuses to leave. It just hangs around and hangs around and hangs around. It's that nagging voice that says you should be spending time with your kids instead of doing that. Or what kind of a mother prioritizes her own career over her own family? Or what kind of a mother even prioritizes herself over her own family? But here's the kicker though. This guilt often stems not only from reality, but from the toxic blend that you have received as you were growing up from society. And society is your family, is your friends, is your neighbors, is that place where you gather as a family. Maybe some places where you go once a week and you hang out with family or with friends. It's everyone that you expose yourself to. That's what society is. And all of those places and people, they have their own expectations, even how they expect you to behave, how they expect you to talk, or not talk, how they expect you to dress, how they expect you to look and carry yourself, how they expect your kids to behave in public as well, right? I'm sure this one you're familiar with. And I've learned over my 14 years of being a mother, that's our oldest, that I don't care as much about what other people think about me upbringing my kids as I once used to. I used to get so embarrassed when my kid would be upset in the store or throwing a tantrum or even crying that someone would judge me. And you know what? There's always going to be that someone that judges. No matter what we do, no matter what we say, there's always going to be someone that judges us. But the one judgment that we fear the most is actually our own, how we view ourselves. So see, when I'll use myself as an example. When I was in the store with our daughter and she was really little, she was throwing a temper tantrum. In my head, I was thinking what everybody else was thinking of me. That's me judging myself through the lenses of different people. Was that the reality? Was that the truth? Was that how they were actually judging me? Most likely not. So I was coming up with these thoughts, with these stories, with these ideas of what everybody else was saying or thinking about me, and I was judging myself and I was bringing myself down. So once I started to really realize that, and I say really realize that, is because it takes a moment to really fully click in. And once that clicked in, I changed those judgments. And those voices became inspiring ones and uplifting ones versus the negative ones, the ones that can be really debilitating to me as a mother. So, of course, then, when you're carrying these expectations of what kind of a mother you're supposed to be, and this guilt coming from, partially reality and partially society, and then that self-doubt, of course, then there is a part of us that is called that inner critic, the voice of the gremlin who amplifies the voice within us and making us feel fake, making us feel like we are an imposter. So with this guilt that we carry as mothers, the guilt of not being enough, how many of you have that guilt of not being enough, not being a good enough mother, not doing enough as a mother? Because when it comes to being a mother, there's so many different roles that you play. And it's like you're a clown in a circus juggling balls that no one ever actually taught you how to juggle. And here you are, need to figure out how to juggle them balls when you've never taken one lesson to know how to juggle them, how to be an expert juggler. So you're figuring it out as you go, just like the rest of the world, just like the rest of us. And when you're meant to struggle, you're not supposed to know how to do everything. Especially not right away. It takes time to learn all of these things as you go. One day at a time, one obstacle at a time, one problem at a time. Instead of feeling like you're supposed to know it all, you're supposed to be great at everything. And this is where this harsh judgment comes in, comes through you, comes from within, that cuts you off at your shins or at your ankles, that you can't even take any steps forward. You gotta crawl. So the guilt of not being enough, this is the voice of that inner critic that's telling you that you're failing at being a mother or at motherhood if you spend time on your dreams. That's what it's telling you. that if you focus on your dreams, you focus on your goals, you focus on your business, you focus on your career, you're a failure as a mother. Now, is it true? Is it really true? Are you a failure as a mother if you focus on your goals and your dreams and on your or on your career? Of course not. Because you're also teaching your kids how to do the same thing. We don't want to teach our kids how to take care of everyone and be there for everyone, do everything for everyone around them in their life. Yes, we want them to do that, but at the same time, we want them to find a healthy balance. Because often, in order for us to see what kind of a mother we want to be, it's important to see our kids in the future and see how we want them to be as a parent. And then we figure out what that means and what that looks like and become that parent that we want our kids to be. Meaning that if you want your kids to essentially, quote unquote, have it all, to have that job or that career, to have an amazing relationship with their partner and with their kids and with their friends, and enjoy life and get out and do fun activities, you gotta do that now. You gotta show them how to do that. That means you gotta work on your shit, on that internal program that you have within you that is not allowing you to pursue your goals, to pursue your dreams obsessively. That doesn't mean that you can't be obsessed with your family and with your kids. It just means that you can be obsessed with more than one thing. You can be obsessed with pursuing your career, with becoming the best version of yourself, with your kids, with your partner, with your pets, with many different things. That's all part of life. And we can be obsessed. We're meant to be obsessed with everything that falls under the umbrella of life for each and every one of us. And it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. The things that fall under the umbrella of life for me are not necessarily going to be the same for you. Majority of it, yes. But some of the things are going to be different. Most of you don't have the creatures that we have in the house to take care of. For me, that's something that I love and enjoy. Some of you have a farm or dream of living in a farm or having a farm. That's a different experience. There's different things that fall under that umbrella called life. And it's up to you to do something about it that is maybe preventing you from not enjoying it fully, or not to do something about it. Hey, Bonnie, how are you doing, beautiful? Bonnie says, hi, I made it. I love you. Yay. I love you too, Bonnie. Thank you. And I'm glad you made it. Happy to have you here. Hey, Rebecca, how are you doing, beautiful? Rebecca says, the most mom guilt is when I lose my temper or when I lose control of my emotions and they see me. The first question that comes to mind is, what's wrong about them seeing you? Why? Because it comes from a place of, I want them to see me only at my best and not my worst. But what's wrong with our kids really seeing us at our worst? It's not like they're going to love us less. If anything, they might actually love us more if we allow them to see us at our worst and remind them that, hey, mommy is a work in progress, just like everybody else, just like you, just like you, just like daddy. Mommy's work in progress and she's working on herself. So if you see a way how I can be a better mommy, let me know. I'm open to hearing your suggestions so I can become a better mom for you or for you. Because our kids have different needs and wants. And they will do the same thing for us. And then guess what we're teaching them? We're teaching them to always work on themselves, to be very open to suggestions, to recommendations, and not see it as criticism. that they will be so welcoming that they see it as a form of support and encouragement and not something negative that criticizes them and hurts them in the end. So in order for our kids to become that way, we must lead the way and open up that door for open communication and say, I'm not perfect and I'm not here to pretend to be perfect. Yes, I lost my shit. I lose my shit with my kids once in a while too. And so I speak from experience because I'm a human and I will always be work in progress. I'm striving for perfection because I also know that I can never be perfect. Perfection itself is an illusion. It doesn't exist. Work in progress, that's to me perfection. Continuing to become the best version of myself every single day, no matter how challenging it is or it feels. That's to me perfection. So if I am living my life that way and sharing this version of myself with my kids, being open and vulnerable, and the most open and vulnerable with my kids, and at the same time not hiding my tears when I know I'm in the wrong, and apologizing when I'm in the wrong, and not expecting them to understand everything, explaining what I can so that way they don't have this fantasy, this illusion of what a perfect mom is, because that can set them up for failure later on. I don't remember my mom crying or being upset. I remember her being strong and tough. So why am I not that way? Why am I so weak? Well, that's perhaps your mom had a really hard front and a hard shell around her, and she made sure she only brought the strongest version in front of you while she was broken behind closed doors and worked through her struggles on her own, and perhaps maybe never tapped into the best version of herself because she didn't allow herself to even look down that rabbit hole. But you choose to be different. You choose to approach everything with openness and with vulnerability and with softness and with hardness, with all that you are, instead of putting on a show. So thank you for mentioning that, Rebecca, because like you said, the most mom guilt is when I lose my temper or when I lose control of my emotions and they see me, right? Whether it's they see us being emotional. When we lose our temper, that's our emotion. Like regardless, when they see us feeling and expressing emotion. And we don't want to teach our kids that one emotion is better than the other. So ignore this one. Don't allow yourself to experience that. That's bad. Don't do that. And this one is good. Do this. We want them to embrace life and their existence in its beauty, in its fullness. And that means with all the good, with all the bad, with all the ugly. That means when you're feeling anger, lean into that anger. Get angry. Feel it. And then when you allow that BATCH to be present, you get her, you understand where she's coming from, you understand what messages she has for you. Write that shit down. Write it down. Get it out of your head so you can understand it, so you can remember it later, because tomorrow you're not going to remember. You'll just remember you were angry about something, but you don't know what. But it's important to write it down. If you don't have a journal yet, start journaling. And journal everything that comes through. All of your emotions, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You will start to really see and understand yourself. And your kids. Because your kids are just like you. And when they trigger you, the reason why they trigger you is because they're reflecting you back to them. And you and I like it. And the only way to change them is to change yourself. And when you change yourself, because you can't change anyone, right? So when you start changing yourself and working on yourself, you'll start to notice your kids changing and evolving and becoming someone like you now. But remember, everything is, how do I put it? It's like what you are attracting today is the previous version of yourself, which means that you are a different person of today. You worked on yourself, you got most of your shit together, and in majority of your life you're going to be in this place where you have most of your shit together, because there's always going to be something new, some new area or some new thing you're going to do where you feel like you need to get your shit together in that area. So, which means that everything in your life and everyone in your life is kind of like 6 months behind. So, and I'm using this example with your kids. So, as you are changing yourself, you gotta give your kids that space and grace to catch up, because they will be the version of you that was existent 6 months ago. And you needed patience as well, and the space to change. So as your kids are changing, they will be a little bit behind. And people in your life as well. But here we're talking about kids. So they will catch up. And eventually they will be this version of you that you are today, because you'll get to a certain version of yourself where you are in peace with, that you are in love with, that you're very comfortable with, and yet you continue to grow and evolve, where you love and accept all parts of you, including all of the feelings and emotions. And then Rebecca says, that's true. True, because I portrayed perfectionist with my first, and now she's a perfectionist and hard on herself when she's not perfect. That's a perfect example, and thank you for sharing that. This is exactly what I'm talking about, is that our kids, they become us. And it's unconscious. All the programming that we are our parents as well. I know I'm not anymore, because I took the time and I've done a lot of programs and workshops and events and courses, and I identified all these different parts of myself, and I worked through them, and I rewrote them in the way that I want to be. And I let go of all those that were not serving me. That was my mom, that was my dad, that was my grandma, my other grandma, or friends in my life, and identifying who am I among all of those, who I want to be, who I don't want to be. So that's where I would start. Now let's go a little bit back with this guilt of not being enough. It can also come through as I'm missing the best years of my kids' lives. Feeling like you're not there for them. Or other moms seem to manage it all. Why can't I? Comparison is huge. And the comparison can be done in a negative way, can be in a positive way. This one is definitely a negative. But in the positive way, this is where I don't recommend doing it now, because you gotta get your shit together when it comes to your emotions, which means understanding them and being in control of them, and how do you know that you're in control of your emotions? Is that when you are angry, you're allowed yourself to feel angry and really go in and hang out with this friend of yours called anger, and understand her and hear her and receive all the messages, and then you come out of it. You come out of that anger, and then now you have peace, and you feel at peace because you've just hung out with that friend that all of us need. We all need a friend in our life who's open and honest and doesn't take shit and will tell you exactly what you need to hear. And anger will be that friend. Sadness can be that friend as well, but sadness can also hide some things from you as well. So whatever emotion you're feeling, you allow yourself to feel it without feeling guilty or embarrassed or ashamed or anything in the realm of I shouldn't be, or it's not the right time, or I can't, and not allowing yourself. So that's when you will start to know that you're really starting to get your shit together, because really it comes down to your internal world, your mental prison, and that is your feelings and your emotions. And then your mental prison traps you in your body as well. So you are in control of your emotions, right? And that doesn't mean that once in a while you're gonna lose your shit without, any warning. It just means this is actually what happens in life as well. Because if we really look at one emotion, anger, and this is usually the go-to for many people, or being trapped in your mind and feeling like the victim. Those are the two go-to, level 1 and level 2. Energies 2 is the anger one, the fighter. The reason why you're there, it's not just because that one thing that happened. It's because there's many other things that happened that led up to that point. It can be anything to do with your sleep, anything to do with your nutrition, with hydration, with exercise, with an enormous amount of experiences, and your procrastinating or self-sabotaging or avoiding type of behaviors. It's an accumulation of different things that now brings you to this explosive moment where you explode or you implode. So it's not just one thing that happens. It's that one thing that's the cherry on top of the cake, and that you go, you smash the whole cake with a cherry on top. So another guilt is the fear of being judged, as I talked about, when an inner voice focuses on, says to you, what will people say if I prioritize my business over my family time? One of the things that I do with women that I work with that are focusing on building their business or career is, the goal is always around, how do you build your business around your life and not your life around your business? That's how I do things. This is how I live. This is how I structure my business around my life. And it is not my life around my business. And there's a really big difference, which means one is more of a priority than the other. And that's not to say that every woman that's in our program doesn't feel like she's a priority. She knows she is, and she feels like she is, but she also knows that to all of us human beings, life, our own personal life, is priority, and it's meant to be. And a job, a business, or a career, it is meant to come second. Yes, it's a way how we can bring an income, but it's replaceable. Is it not? You can change your job, you can change your career, but one thing you cannot change, nor would you want to. Maybe there's moments that you would, let's be honest. But realistically, you wouldn't want to change your family, your kids, even your partner. Maybe there's parts of your partner that you wish to change, but realistically, maybe you don't. Maybe it's just parts of you that view those parts of your partner that you really want to change. Not your partner, but the way that you view and see your partner. Once that changes, you feel like you got a whole new partner. So some things you can change, and you can have new ones, like a job, a career, right? Even a business, you can change that as well. You're not stuck with the one that you have. But you can change your friends. You can't really change your family, whether it's the one that you're born in or the one that you chose, and now you have your own kids. Certain things you can and certain things you can't. So that's where I will end with that thought. And then that fear of failure, that if I fail, everyone will know I'm selfish and I failed. It's like carrying the weight of imaginary critics while you're running uphill. This is what happens. And it becomes really heavy, and at moments almost impossible for you to carry all of that weight of those imaginary voices of the inner critic. And then there is the trap of the perfectionism. So mom guilt often partners up with perfectionism. They become BFFs, making you feel like you have to excel at everything and anything that you do at all times. Not just once, not just twice, but all the time. And you gotta keep up with it. And this is when your inner critic, that voice of the gremlin, that imposter that comes through, that will say to you, if you're going to work, your home better look spotless. Or when you come home, you better clean your home and make sure that it's spotless. If you're chasing your dreams or goals, your kids should miss out on anything, which means make sure your kids got everything that they're doing, that they're following their goals, their dreams. You can do yours later. But if you're doing that, once again, what are you teaching your kids? That their dreams, that their goals don't matter as much as somebody else's do. And that's not what you would want for your kids. You don't want your kids to chase their goals, their dreams, and be obsessed with their life. So, how do you get them to be that way when they're adults, when they have their own families? Is you set the tone, you become the example, the living, breathing example, and the unconscious program within them. That's how you do it. Now, how does mom guilt and the inner critic voice sabotage your dreams? The combination of mom guilt and the inner critic keeps you playing small by making you second guess your worth. Sometimes all day long, where you're guessing your worthiness, if you're good enough or not. You then will start to undervalue your contributions and you will downplay your potential. It keeps you stuck in a people-pleasing mode where you prioritize everybody else's needs, wants, and desires over your own, leaving very little to no room for growth and for yourself. It also paralyzes you with self-worth, doubt, or self-doubt. The fear of failure or the fear of judgment can stop you from making bold steps towards the things that you want and stepping outside of your comfort zone and going after what you want. Now, how can you manage it? It's quite simple, and yet it might not feel simple right away. Recognize the stories, recognize the message. This is where the journaling comes to mind. Write it down, because mom guilt often thrives on unhelpful narratives like good moms don't put themselves first. So when you recognize that, you journal your thoughts, you identify your patterns, and then challenge that voice, challenge that belief by simply asking, is this true? Or is it the voice of my inner critic? Or how true is this really? Or is it just some story that someone gave me that I took on and at some point decided was going to be my truth? And then you're going to reframe it. You're going to rewrite it in a different way. Remind yourself that feeling guilty does not mean that you're failing. It just means that you're recognizing. You're recognizing the opportunity for growth and evolution, options, and you're recognizing that you're feeling guilt. You're recognizing an emotion. It's a sign that you care deeply about being a good mom, and that's why you feel guilty. Bad moms don't feel guilt. They feel like, oh, I'm great, I did everything, I am perfect. Good moms feel guilt and they do something about it. And Maybe not right away, but they do. Little by little, they learn and they become better and better and better. And they feel guilty because now this new version of themselves is still not good enough, that there's more growth, more things to do, more things to offer. Just like your kids grow, they're going to have their different needs, different ways how you would even communicate with them. And it's part of the process. My phone is about to die. So I'm just going to wrap it up right here and leave the rest up to you to start doing this work and rewrite these messages that you're uncovering. And remember that it's not going to happen overnight. It's a process. And it's very possible to get your shit together with your emotions and not feel like you're not in control of your emotions. So other than that, thank you very much to each and every one of you who were on here. I'll look at some of more comments that came through, and we'll see each other next week for another one of these Get Your Shit Together weekly live guidance with myself, Yana Kasperczak, on Thursdays at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time, or we'll see each other on Monday, 11:45 a.m. in the same group here, Heal the Unicorn, Emotional Healing and Spiritual Growth for Women, where I'll be doing a card reading. Have an amazing rest of your day, the rest of your weekend, and until next time, bye everybody.